The 2026 Diamondbacks season is well underway, and it's not going terribly. So we're diving into the secret sauce the Diamondbacks have cooked up, and what it means for the rest of the season, right now on the Dbacks podcast.
Baseball is back.
Perdomo makes the play.
And a high fly ball. No doubt about this. Home run Marte.
They're going to send them all the way around. Corbin Carroll with an inside the park answer back.
It's Alec Thomas from the Diamondbacks.
Former Major League Baseball player Luis Gonzalez.
I'm Torey Lavello, and you're listening to the Dbacks Podcast.
Dbacks Podcast.
Dbacks Podcast.
Arizona's #1 baseball and beverage podcast.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Dbacks podcast, where we bring you all the hottest Arizona Diamondbacks tea and talk from across the pond here in London. We are proud to be Arizona's #1 baseball and beverage podcast, and we're back. I am back from my trip to Houston and the World Baseball Classic. I have also been taking in some Diamondbacks action at spring training over at Salt River Field, and I literally just touched down from my trip after taking in some of the series against Detroit and Atlanta. There's so much to cover. There's so much I've been waiting to yap about. It's been a hot minute since we've done one of these, so I've got my brew. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. First things first, leading off the chat, let's talk Canada's Mike Soroka. Now, he was accused of being a bit of a bargain bucket signing when we picked him up, and yeah, I think I was one of the guys who was maybe responsible for giving him that label. But he's really brushed off those allegations, and he went 5 scoreless with 10 Ks and no runs allowed against Detroit, including an immaculate inning, which puts him alongside illustrious company of the likes of Wade Miley, my favorite, Byung-Hyun Kim, and Randy Johnson as the only Diamondbacks in history to throw an immaculate inning. That's pretty good. Speaking of the big unit, by the way, 10 Ks means he passed Hall of Famer Randy Johnson for his most strikeouts in a Diamondbacks debut, so, looking pretty good. Now, we can't judge a pitcher on one inning or even really on one start, but if that game was anything to go by, we have found something that really, really works for Soroka that, the Nats and the White Sox, his previous clubs, couldn't. And he'll definitely be in the rotation for at least one more start, with Merrill Kelly still penched in for rehab starts in Reno and Albuquerque. So, yes, let's judge Soroka once we've seen a bit more of him pitching in anger. But that said, he does give us plenty of reasons to get excited. Let's absolutely see how he did in that matchup against Atlanta with Bryce Elder. Still did great. More on the topic of breakout stars, how about Jose Fernandez? What a debut, and I was there in person to see it, which is not something that happens very common. It's been a while since I've been to a game in the season that's been that early, where there have been players making their debuts. It's really always special when you're at the ballpark to see, history in front of your eyes. And Jose made one of the greatest debuts in baseball history. Then I think it was something like 8th best statistical scoreline of a hitter on their debut. He put up 3 hits, hit 2 homers with 4 RBIs, went 3 for 4, and has a 3,000 OPS from that game. Now, again, I'm going to try and be reasonable and say, let's judge him in the long run. But, he was solid at third base. He had a reliable game at first in the last game of the series. And did I also mention he posted a sprint speed faster than Bobby Witt when he legged out a single? At one point, his only hits were homers or bunt singles. So, that's pretty good to get your first MLB hit for a guy who's never really seen a pitcher at AA level before, who really made a name for himself by building up himself and his muscle all the way through the spring, making a big splash. He's still 23, so we could very much be talking about a Rookie of the Year level of candidate. The talent is clearly there, and so is his work ethic. So, he's built like a brick house too. What's not to love? Now, I'm seriously hoping that we don't stunt his growth like we did with, somebody like Jordan Lawler. Lawler may, yes, have been thrown in the deep end a bit too soon. He was very hyped as a prospect, and moved around the diamond, used to sporadically, up and down. Yes, he's had his injuries, but with Jose, he can apparently play anywhere on the infield, but I think, right now I like him on the corners. We've got the middle infield covered between Ketel, Domo, Vargas, Tower, but, Pavin right now is down injured, so there's no backup for Santana and or Arenado. There's a conspiracy theory that, I saw floating around that, I'm fully biting into, is that Hazen didn't pick up Goldschmidt, not because he wouldn't be an everyday guy, but he'd had a bit of an insider tip that Jose Fernandez was going to be ready and, ready pretty soon. Either way, he's clearly got a very good hitting coach, and that is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing because all credit in that department goes to somebody I think is an unsung hero of the baseball world and the Diamondbacks in particular, and that's Mr. Brad Marcelino, who also just happens to be the coach for Team Great Britain. So, yeah, we Brits know ball. I also did see a little bit of analysis that I thought was really interesting from Gracie on the postgame show that I really liked, and that he pointed out Diamondbacks fans shouldn't be expecting Arenado and Santana to be the players they were 5 to 10 years ago. Yes, there will be better productivity than what they are currently making that will come, sure, but they're there really primarily to pass on knowledge and mentor the young dudes. And if Jose can learn the corners from those two and start fighting to make those spots his own, then yeah, I will start to feel a hell of a lot better about missing out on the guys who came over from the NPB, like Murakami Okamoto. Like Murakami, had a 4-game home run streak or something like that. But the final line on Jose Fernandez is we are now, as of time of writing these notes, 6-0 in games he starts in. So do what you want with that information, but I'm not getting too hyped too quickly. But at the same time, my hype levels for this guy are absolutely through the roof. Transitioning nicely from a point about older guys who are hoping to wind back the clock, let's also talk about Paul Sewald. At one point, he was had 100% saves for saved opportunities this season. He blew one the other day, but that didn't really seem to be breaking much of a sweat for him either. People were super concerned that if he would have the velocity required, and obviously he's not throwing 98, 99, 100 like some closers do. But that funky delivery with a bit of a rise on the inside fastball tied Torkelson up 2 nights in a row. And yes, you all know, yes, I'm biased, but Tork is a pretty good player. And yeah, he was pretty flummoxed. So here's to you, Paul Sewald. New mug, by the way, specially bought for the podcast. In that series, he put up 2 innings, 4 Ks, no runs, and 2 saves. And we now have, a late inning setup later in the year that will consist of Jonathan Loaiziga, AJ Puck, Justin Martinez, and a supposedly ageless Paul Sewald. And that's got, any tight 8th or 9th inning scenario covered one way or another, in my opinion. And Sewald is always better when the guys in front of him are rolling and dealing too. And, right now, out of the bullpen guys that we've had, Ryan Thompson and Joe Ross are the only guys out of the pen to really, make a pig's ear of it so far in the season. Taylor Rashi has come back up. He's looked good, and the Call Rashi memes are back and alive and well, which is really great to see. I'd made a little bit of a fuss about having no lefties in the pen when the opening day roster was revealed, but I also agree that Abner and Garcia were still a little green through the spring. Mike Hazen, I have to say, I apologize a bit on that front because despite the lack of lefties, for once we have a bullpen that is actually working, and that's good. To sort of close out the week of the Detroit series, I think we have to talk about Zach Gallen as well. He was somewhat of a stand-in replacement for opening day, given Merrill Kelly got injured and Zach Gallen got the rock on opening day. And was I think we have to say severely unlucky to lose the game in Los Angeles. But in his second start of the year, he was pretty much flawless. He threw 6 shutout innings and outpitched Cy Young winner Tarek Skubal. I think Tarek Skubal clearly still having nightmares about first pitch home runs off of Nate Eaton at the World Baseball Classic. Let's go GB. But, Zach does seem to be able to locate the slider much better than that really rough stretch he had last year. And he's less reliant on, his knuckle curve as a put-away pitch, more just like working it in when there's an opportunity for it. He threw 88 strikes, 58 balls, gave no walks, but very much clearly had more of a plan. Like he threw 3 balls wide in the dirt in a row, and that still struck out Javi Baez because they knew that Baez would swing at it anyway. And that's, pretty basic baseball analytics and trend analysis and all of that. But, if it works and we can execute the plan properly, then yeah, why not do that? But I also think that having that first win of the year finally under his belt will be a very good thing, especially given that he started super slowly last year. And I think he didn't get that first W in the column until I think it may be his 4th start last year, if I remember right. But Zach Gallen threw his first 3 starts this year. That's a 3.00 ERA, 7.81 xERA, 4.02 FIP against a 4.76 expected FIP, and a 14.3 K percentage and a 9.5% base on balls percentage, which is looking pretty good. So, yeah, like I said at the start of the show, there are plenty of reasons to be cheerful if you're a Diamondbacks fan. Through his first 6 games, the D-backs pitchers held opponents scoreless in 43 of 51 innings. So that's just under 85% of all the innings they threw, which, is firstly, that's a franchise high this decade. And secondly, that's just really, really good to begin with. And I think the kind of thing that following the series in Detroit sent me back home with a smile on my face is stuff like that, despite, how incredibly cold and rainy and dreary it is here in London today compared to the gorgeous weather it was in Arizona. Unfortunately, those good vibes didn't last too long. The Snakes kicked off the series against Atlanta with a 2-17 loss where we found, the likes of James McCann going into pitch. And, the less we talk about that, the better. I'm not going to sit here and complain, given that the Diamondbacks are above 500 at the moment. I'm not going to come in and say, the season's done already and what the hell are we doing? The interesting part of that series against Atlanta for me was Ketel Marte, who had a little bit of a quiet start to the season. I think it's fair to say he'd been performing a little below expectations up until that part in the season. Like, Ketel wasn't exactly having a slump compared to, some other big infield names across the league. Like, Bo Bichette is a good comparison. He found himself booed by Mets fans last week, but Ketel wasn't exactly the standout performer in the lineup that we've gotten used to. But, after all the talk of trades over the summer, it finally seemed like El Nino de Nazal has settled back again. He delivered a clutch walk-off hit to secure the series split and seemingly kick-started his bat in the process. Subsequently, on the road trip, he's looked pretty solid in the leadoff spot despite the elevated competition in the infield that he found across the roster. And despite Jordan Lawler sustaining a fractured wrist and apparently being out for 6 to 10 weeks, all is not lost from our bench options. I want to stress, we've already mentioned Jose Fernandez, but Tim Tower, reliable as always. But the focal point that I'm going to bring up here, legendary all-time Reno ace Ildemaro Vargas has stepped up exactly when we have needed him. He's currently batting above 400 with 4 RBIs and an OPS above 1,000. That's trending towards putting up numbers double his career averages, which is amazing. And that's always encouraging given that Carlos Santana now has managed to somehow injure himself standing still watching a fastball go by and taking it for a strike. I have no idea how that has happened, by the way. But this means that we will see more of Jose platooned at first, probably with Lucan Baker, who got the call for the first time as a Diamondback, so good luck to the big dude there. But we've now got a reliable everyday guy who can fill in at third or at second, so that's either to be a more productive bat at the hot corner while Arenado gets his shit together, or that will allow Ketel to DH and put up the dependable numbers we know Ketel can do without, straining him too much. I think if you go on X, formerly Twitter, and look at, type in like 2028 Diamondbacks predicted roster, a lot of them will have like Tommy Troy or John Lawler at second base, maybe, even like the James Groover, but Ketel will be the DH there. And I think, saving Ketel's legs, letting him just focus on, doing what he does best, which is just hitting really well in clutch moments, that's good. And I think having Vargas in there that maybe could ease a bit more of that transition if we need it, also a really good thing. Vargas right now, he looks like he's on a 9-game hit streak. That also does date back to last year. But at one point this year, he was, in 2026, 10 for 20. So batting 500 with 4 runs, 16 total bases, 3 extra base hits, 4 RBI, 1 base on balls, 1 strikeout, a 524 OPB, a 1324 OPS, and was tied second on the team in hits with Ketel Marte with 16. So that's the second overall on the team. And that is an unsung hero if I have ever seen one. And, before we move on, let's also talk about Nolan Arenado, because his position surely has to now be considered under threat unless, that rumored first base position change comes to fruition. Because even if Torrey is ignoring Jose Fernandez, Timmy Tower, and the absolutely stratospheric form of Ildemaro Vargas right now, we've then got another name coming up. That's Jose Mejia, or Mejia. I'm actually not entirely sure how to pronounce it, who's in AAA right now. And he's posting a 385 average, a 500 OPB, an 846 slug, 565 WOBA, and 225 WRC+, which is pretty stratospheric for a guy who's not a name all D-backs fans are going to be following as closely compared to, Tommy Troy or Ryan Waldschmidt. Like Jose Mejia was kind of just a sweetener in the Blaze Alexander trade. Obviously, Cade Stroud was the main acquisition there, but that's, again, not a bad trade in terms of how it's worked out from Mike Hazen and co. So I just want to say to the fandom, remember that this is the level of quality of prospect we now have when, we might go and lose, 1 or 2 games in a row, and everyone starts saying, "Oh, we need to hit the panic button." Da 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 da. Now, we've got some incredible talent now, like absolutely stacking up in Reno. Even with the massive injury basis, the next man up mentality is clearly working. So, yeah, let's not start complaining about too much too quickly if things do go a little bit south. Because I don't think we're going to maintain an incredible amount of form. I think the plan for the Diamondbacks this season very much has to be, hang on until Kelly, Puck, Burns, Martinez are back. Like, we can keep our heads above water that long and then make a push sort of out of nowhere after the All-Star break, then yeah, who's not to say that this team can't be playoff contenders. Now, at the moment, I'm not going to say too much on the Phillies series until it's over. We're 1 game in as of recording this, and if you want, you can always find my instant reactions over on Instagram and X at Dbacks Podcast if you want them. But the big comeback win last night, definitely exciting for sure. But, that's just the odds Dbacks for you. Like I say, next man up mentality. James McCann delivered the clutch hit there, and he didn't even start the game, right? Like, this we know this team has great spirit. It's got good clubhouse vibes. But having that little bit of extra, extra edge, extra clutch, is definitely really welcome. I will throw out some more names for recognition, and after 3 appearances this year, and that is Eduardo Rodriguez, who, fresh off of glory in the World Baseball Classic with Venezuela, has been, so far, I think we have to consider him the ace of the rotation for the Diamondbacks, and he's got the numbers to back that up. He's still to be awarded a win this season, but right now it's 18 innings of 0.5 earned run average from the opponent ball out of a pitcher who began the year facing serious consideration, I think, by some for a bullpen role, and, there was so many accusations of Erod being washed going on at the start of the year, like, why are we paying Erod, I think it's like $20 million to, be a 4th or 5th in the rotation guy and have a 5 ERA. He's absolutely flown out the gates. Like, the Classic has done absolute wonders for his confidence. And yeah, if we go back to like the old school bits of baseball analysis, remember Erod is the only southpaw arm on our major league roster right now. So he is effectively being tasked with hanging in some games to get lefty bats out when he's potentially a bit more tired than he would ordinarily be, because we don't have a lefty out of the pen. There's no better matchup that we can really bring out, and like I say, he has answered the call and silenced those doubters. So I think we got to say that the WBC and its success has played a huge part in that. Like, Erod's always been a pro. He speaks well and he takes stuff really seriously. I don't think anybody is doubting that. But given Arizona's luck with veteran pitchers potentially past their prime in recent years, I would absolutely forgive you for doubting him, if just like being a little bit skeptical. But I would also forgive you for thinking he can't possibly maintain this kind of form for a whole season, and I think you're probably right. But hopefully, me saying this isn't a jinx, but if we can get, a 1-2 punch from somehow now it's him and Zach Gallen as pitchers who look set for season ERAs below 3-ish, then that stands the Serpientes in, seriously good stead for the rest of the year, and I'm excited to see what comes from that. For now, though, I think we have to just sit back, be a little bit patient, and think that, the plan is, like I said, keep the heads above water, try and, just play good fundamental baseball, don't blow too many leads, don't blow up the way that the Diamondbacks have been known to in the past, because, ultimately I think we're a pretty anxious fandom. Like, if you're, Dodgers fans, you're just rolling along being happy with your world because you can throw money at a problem. If you're Rockies fans, or in some cases San Francisco fans, I don't know quite what's going on in San Francisco at the moment. There's just like, accepting our fate. The thing that kills Diamondbacks fans is hope. Like, we don't always expect to do amazingly, but the level of talent and quality that we have on this roster means that we always hope that something cool can happen. And when you get, a breakout star out of nowhere, Rookie of the Year contender like Corbin was a few years ago, that you have like Jose Fernandez is going to probably be this season if he can keep up this level of hype and just delivering when we need him, then of course we're going to hope for awesome stuff. But, this roster has what it takes to be a playoff team, I think. I don't think it's a World Series winning team yet. Bring Corbin Burns back, former Cy Young winner, and then we'll talk. But for now, we're hanging in there. We're above 500. We're delivering clutch walk-off wins. We're coming back to win games that we'd been losing by a few runs. The Atlanta series is underway, and Atlanta are not a team that will roll over and just let anything happen. Like Phillies, same thing. Phillies are, a bit of a bogey team in some cases. They can really put the hurt on some teams. Like I watched Kyle Schwarber put the hurt on Team Great Britain at the World Baseball Classic in Houston. So let's not underestimate them. I think Bryce Harper had a bit of a quieter World Baseball Classic, but we have shown that this team can beat the Phillies when everyone's written us off before. Admittedly, that was 3 years ago now. That's the 2023 NLCS. My God, 2023 NLCS is 3 years ago. I don't know how I feel about that. But it can be done. We've shown that. We have talented players. We have major league players who deserve to be there. Alec Thomas's ride of his life against the Phillies. He can hit the Phillies. Ketel Marte can walk off the Phillies. So, I know we're on the road, but let's go do it again. Why not? We then face a trip to the Baltimore Orioles on the road trip after this. I don't really know too much about what's going on in Baltimore. It's not a team I've been keeping up with very well. I know people saying Gunnar Henderson was slumping. I know people saying Jackson Holiday is not as good as he should be. Is Kobe Mayo still there? Is that a thing? I don't know. I remember making a lot of puns about Kobe Mayo in the fantasy draft this year, but my fantasy draft this year has not gone well. I picked up Erod, and that's nice. But then pretty much all of my bullpen options got sent to the minors. Like I had Seth Halverson, Cade Stroud, Tristan Beck, and yeah, that's not gone great. So we're not going to talk about this. If you want me to do an entire podcast breaking down my fantasy baseball drafts, because I'm in a bunch of leagues. I'm in the Backflips and Nerds Great Britain League. I'm in a different British baseball one where I'm currently, I think, bottom of the table. But let me know in the comments if you want me to do a fantasy baseball draft breakdown, because I have 2 drafts now to go through player by player, and if you'd be interested in hearing my probably either outdated or somewhat stereotypical takes on why I've drafted people, let me know down in the comments, and you can always get in touch with me over on socials as well at Dbacks Podcast on X and Instagram if you want to tell me, hey, what the hell are you talking about? But as always, I'll kind of say let's wrap it up there before I go too far down the rabbit hole. Thank you very much, as always, for watching / listening. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, wherever it is that you're tuning in from on any platform. We're always grateful to have you as part of the community. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.